Good day everyone. So you guys interested in creating a short 3D animated film without any animation skills? Fortunately, I did create a one while ago, and today I want to share it with you some insight on how do I create it. Please do check out my short animation if you are interested. By the way, this movie is heavily inspired from Makoto Shinkai works called She and Her Cat. I'll provide the link in the description. Alright, before I started, I would like to point out that this method will be a lot more effective if the story oriented more on the background and monologue. And also, if you already have basic 3D knowledge in general. This is also why I choose She and Her Cat film as the source of inspiration, since it's heavily focused on background and monologue. For example, you already have followed tutorial from Blender Guru, CG Geek, and Polygon Runway. And these guys provide tutorial that makes you be able to say, cool, I can actually make a decent 3D environment. Then you can start experimenting with character with almost zero animation skill. To put it simply, for the case of my short 3D animated film creation, I'm using Blender for the environment, Vroid for the character modeling, and Mixamo for the animation. Now let's take it to the real process on how do I tackle my short animation process from the beginning. I referred to the bloop animation video about this here. And this one is really explain everything. I'll provide a link in the description if you are interested. And he actually makes a paid course about it on his website. But what I'm doing is basically take some of his course structure for the guidelines on how to make short 3D animate film in my own way. Here is the 8 points that I want to share with you guys in this video on how to create short animation in kind of proper way and what kind of decision I made along the way on the project. So the first one, why would you even make a film? So I just graduated from college in industrial engineering. Yep, no correlation whatsoever with 3D animation, I know. But I have been interested in 3D for quite some time as a hobby. But I don't really know how good I am actually in 3D. And I really want to make it as a living. That is the reason why I create this short 3D animation to determine my skill at that time by making it a project right away. Number 2, coming up with ideas. For this part, I think I take it a bit too far. I've been a big fan of Makoto Shinkai works for quite a long time. And it was after I watched his film 5 cm per second and it was magical. I could even say that I am more into this guy compared to Studio Ghibli and Pixar, which are my other favorite animation studio. Maybe the actual reason is I am more attached into his career path and his persona more than anything else. And apparently, I did randomly stumble upon his interview on random website where he talks about his latest film, Weathering With You, and this conversation just confirmed it. So basically, he's been asked what software did he use for the CG, right? And he answered 3D Studio Max mainly, but he also used Blender and then composited in After Effects. And I was like, what? I'm really familiar with this software. And he'd be able to create something like that with these things? We've been holding the same knife this whole time? It's like, you use the knife for killing level 100 bosses and I'm just using it for cutting tomatoes. I don't know. I don't even like tomatoes. And then they talk about how Makoto involved in animation in the first place. Basically, what he's saying is he saw Hideaki Anno's animation, which is Neon Genesis Evangelion, and realized the method he used with his lack of time into the cell, which is the character animation. So he will have a background with just the character having a monologue. So he used that as an advantage of not having enough time to animate it. So Makoto Shinkai said, wow, if he could do something like this, I think that I could make my own film too. And right away, I go back to his second created animated film, which is She and Her Cat, which I have seen film actually in the past, but not really giving more attention to it. I watched it for like 5 times in a row just to make sure myself that I could also say something like, whoa, if he could do something like this, I think that I could make my own film too. That's right. I'm gonna try to recreate She and Her Cat film in my own way with my limited skill at that time. But of course, I didn't want to make the exact same animation, like, what's the point, right? So I did change a bit by turning the cat into a girl and the working girl into a high school student guy instead. And I also gave an additional story when the two of them could actually interact each other by turning the cat into a human in a shared dream. So that is basically the idea on how I coming up with the story for the animation. Number 3, software. It's only natural to determine your tools first before you going for the work, since there are a ton of tools out there. For 3D environment and rendering, I will be using Blender 3D. I personally think it is the best open source software right now to create a 3D animation. And don't forget that Makoto Shinkai even using Blender for his latest film. For the character modeling, I'm using Fearoid. This is also open source where you can make a 3D anime character ready for animation. And for the animation, I'm using Mixamo. It's also a free program which consists bunch of basic movement for character animation. And the last one, for the video editing and sound design, I'm using OpenShot. It's also a free program which pretty much covers all basic video editing features. Number 4, script format. For scripting, I'm only using Microsoft Word. And since I take She and Her Cat as an inspiration, what I did was to translate all the script from She and Her Cat film into Indonesian language and change a little bit of some of its lines and also added additional lines to fit more into the situation what I like to convey in my animation. This kind of method probably only works in my case since it's not really an original works, but I can give you a tip for scripting is that start with the message you want to convey in your animation. And maybe it's in your first point at why even make a film in the first place. And after that, write a story you like and try to write it in visual manners. If you could see your finished film right now, how do you describe it in words? Number 5, storyboarding. It's the stage when we have to start thinking about the layout and the composition of the shot for the whole animation. And this project, I'm using this as a template for the storyboard, usually used for anime creation and also hand-drawn. But in my case, I was straight into 3D software to adjust the layout, which means what kind of props I will be needed in this shot and also its composition. Well, I'm still not very good at composition, but I can give you some tips. For the regular shot, and there's no special intention of the shot, you could keep the X value to 90 and Y value to 0 for the camera to give a good orientation for the audience. And also, always turn on guidelines camera before render to see how it composes. Number 6, voice acting. You could use your own voice, that's for sure. Even Makoto Shinkai in She and Her Cat used his own voice for his animation. But in my case, the cat is a girl. I did actually learn a bit how to change my voice into a girl. It actually sounds okay. But then of course, if you have friends, ask them for help if they want to contribute their voice in a film without any payment, since the short animation isn't going to make any money anyway. Because I'm making the short animation in quarantine, I used Zoom for virtual meeting to discuss about the work. I'm sending her the storyboard along with the lines, and then we discuss in depth about the story and the character she will be voiced. And then do a little bit of reading practice so we could correct it on the spot and making some notes. And after all that practice, set up the deadline when she could send her voice through Google Drive. Number 7, the actual work. I named the point as the actual work since this is the part where we move forward from planning to actual work. And here is the place where we spend the most of our time. And if we want to minimize our work, we can outsource a lot of things basically. It's like having workers working under you. There are 4 points I want to share in the actual work. The first one, environment set. In the He and His Cat film, there are 8 environment sets, which are Arkea's house exterior and interior, adoption place of Arkea and Mimi the cat, bus stop, classroom, rooftop, alternate place in classroom, bridge near Arkea's house, bridge near bus stop. And as I told you earlier about outsourcing, I could say this animation is using probably around 30% of assets that people are share online for free. But always make sure that they are sharing under non-copyrighted, so your work cannot be taken down. And also don't forget to give credit to them. Here are some sites I'm using for this project. The next one, character model. There are 4 characters that will be appear in the film. They are Arkia and Mimi as a student. These 2 characters were made inside Vroid, and at that time I'm not even creating a new original character, since that was the first time I'm using Vroid too. I'm taking from the library and only change the clothes to fit for some scene. The other 2, Mimi and Chobi. For these 2 cats is the result of tracing from the actual film and change it a little bit to fit the scene. I know this is not a good practice. And of course, you could not do this method if you want to make an original short animation. But since my animation is more like a tribute to She and Her Cat film, and also it comes from the people who are a big fan of Makoto Shinkai, I think he will not mind it at all. As you can see from this scene, what I did first, I draw Mimi with totally legit Photoshop. And then I import the image as plain inside the Blender and put it where it goes. Next one, animation. This is where I talk about zero animation skill, since I'm almost never learned to animate character before. Mixamo really come in handy on this one, and of course with a lot of limitation. But it provided over than 3,000 motion track animation that we can quickly use for 3D projects right? Basically the process is export the character from the Vroid into Blender. And export the character from Blender as FBX file into Mixamo. Choose certain animation you desired. Export as FBX file into Blender. There you go, you have the animation inside Blender. For some simple movement like turning head and change expression, I did it myself. And it's pretty simple as long as we understand a little bit about keyframes. Number 8, video editing and sound design. So, since my animation is actually pretty simple, it's only required basic video editing of combining multiple videos and transition, and also zoom in, zoom out. It's like combining a presentation slide. Fun fact, the video editing required to make this video you see right now and my short animation using the exact same method since it was pretty simple. Man, stop making me feel bad about my short animation. It was a masterpiece, you know. Anyway, it would be much better if the sound design could be made along after the storyboard to match the theme and timing of the film. But in my case, I slap it at the end of the animation, which is not a really good practice, but it kinda worked out alright. Every sound I used in the video were taken from YouTube under non-copyrighted music. Try to feel how the scene trying to convey and choose the right type of music. I don't really know how to say this since what I did is just choosing the non-copyrighted music that I like quite randomly, but yeah. There you go on how I did my short animated film. Hope you guys can learn from my experience, and if you are interested in creating animation too, I can't wait to see yours. Please tell me in the comment the name of your channel if you want to. And also please subscribe since I have something to tell you. It's a surprise! I'm developing a new animated series here in this channel. Unfortunately, it will be in Indonesian language, so I'm planning to use English subtitles so I could reach more people with my animation. So stay tuned, it will be coming very soon. See you in the next one.